How much of a fight will Florida put up against Georgia? Yeah, I know it's bad. We got a Gators preview, of course, with Jackie Franchuli from All Gators and WCJB there in Gainesville, Florida. Jackie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mark. I'm ready to put in some Star Wars metaphors here in this contact with you too.
There you go. There you go. All right. Before we talk Georgia, Florida, and of course that's front and center and would normally be the case. Florida, of course, had its issues with the pandemic and has dealt with those successfully recently. Let's start there in regards to the latest report on the Florida virus list.
Yeah, sure. On Tuesday, the Florida Gators released their weekly testing numbers for COVID-19, and they announced that they had no positive cases for the month of November. Obviously, the month of November is only 4 days long. But that's really good news for Florida. Now, the other big news that I think a lot of people might have forgotten is the rule in the SEC that once you've tested positive once, you don't have to be tested again for 3 months. So a lot of these players are not going to be retested, of those that had tested positive the last few weeks here. So Florida only tested 50 players. But again, that's a lot of good news considering of the outbreak, where we saw at least 37 players test positive during that outbreak, and several staff members also tested positive, including Gators head coach Dan Mullen. So this is good news. And the other part of the good news is Dan Mullen said that he is confident they're going to have a fuller team. Don't forget, against Missouri, they were missing a lot of their secondary, and they missed their starting kicker, Evan McPherson, as well. So a lot of those guys are going to be available against Georgia this week. So good news for, Florida, that you don't want to walk into a rivalry matchup with depth issues on the defense.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love, Georgia, Florida, this week. Of course, 3:30 Eastern time, Jacksonville, of course, the destination and location each and every year. We got Jackie Franchuli on the line, who helps us out in covering Florida football. You can catch Jackie on All Gators on SI.com. All right, so we know it's a busy week when our third question finally gets to the Georgia game. So let's clean up the mess from last weekend regarding the fight. So based on all the information I could gather, based on watching the fight itself, the play on Kyle Trask prior to the fight, there's a segment that says Dan Mullen's in the wrong for inciting the fight, for running out onto the field, and then dissecting the actions that he took from there on. Based on the video that I watched, his actions were very indiscernible by me. All right. The other camp is that Kyle Trask was hit late, and the officials completely missed that. And the players are going to come to their quarterback or any other player on the team, but especially the quarterback's defense. And that's obviously what started the melee.
Yeah, so I've been pretty vocal on Twitter about this. I think a lot of the national media pundits, and maybe a lot of media in general, just kind of tied everything together. They remember the Pack the Swamp comments after the Texas A&M matchup. They remember the COVID-19 outbreak. They remember that he didn't walk back those Pack the Swamp comments for a couple days. And I think they had that just waiting for a moment to attack Dan Mullen once again. And they kind of went with two hands and grabbed them and say, like, he incited that brawl. And then he had the audacity to wear that Darth Vader costume in his post-game presser on Halloween. And I think it was something where it's like, was he wrong by saying the Swamp comments back 3 weeks ago now, I think? Yes, he was wrong. Was he wrong not to back away from those comments quicker? Yes, he was wrong. When he ran in the middle of the field against Missouri during that halftime, did he make it worse? Certainly he did, but it wasn't he was going after the referee. It was clearly shown in the video that he was going to talk to the referee. In the post-game presser, he said he didn't see the hit at Kyle Trask. He was told by a player that someone hit. He was going to talk to the referee about other calls in the first half. And I think people are just trying to say he incited this and the brawl because of all the other stuff that was going on weeks prior. And then I know I read an editorial, and I think it was Deadspin, who was talking about how that costume with Darth Vader just proved that he shouldn't be a coach in college football. And you know what? It's Halloween. I remember when college football used to be fun. I remember when these antics were normal. Come on, Florida's one of their former head coaches was Steve Spurrier. HBC is known to have fun like this. And honestly, Mark, I think it's actually kind of I think Dan Mullen's going to use this. You know, he's becoming the heel of college football. He's becoming, you know, Darth Vader, you know, and I think even Florida football yesterday sent out a graphic of a movie poster with him as Darth Vader and his players in front. It looked like the Empire Strikes Back. And I think Florida wants to strike back against Georgia this weekend. And honestly, I think Dan Mullen will open up his wallet, pay the $25,000 to the SEC gladly, because you know what? His players are behind him now. By a coach doing what he did, because he was fighting for his team. He was showing like, hey, I'm going to the referee to tell him about this. And then suddenly he's hearing about Kyle Trask and a late hit. Players love that sort of thing. And honestly, I think that one of the things that, you know, Florida was he wasn't losing the locker room, but I think after 2 weeks of not playing, a season like 2020 season where there's so many uncertainties in college football, these are young men who did not know that they even were going to play a season this year. Some of these men were back home in the spring. They didn't play spring ball. Some of these young men also came from situations that are worse in their family environment. And then they're coming back here again. They didn't know they were going to play. And now after 2 weeks, they didn't know what was going on with this virus either. We still have not much information on it. So mentally, this was for Dan Mullen, he's like, I have the team back. We're playing as a unit now because everyone's going to fight for each other, which was shown in the second half. That was a whole different team again in the second half. They were clued in. And I'm not going to say that the brawl kind of incited it, but, you know, Dameon Pierce and Kyle Trask all said it energized them. And what timing to get energized when you have one of their biggest rivalry games on their schedule on Saturday. So Mark, at the end of the day, I think it was made too much of a big deal. You know, I wrote an editorial this week about it, and I said, you know, it felt like everyone was letting the hate flow through them, and they were just waiting to start for a rebellion against Dan Mullen. They were just waiting for the opportunity, and I think they need to realize that Dan Mullen did things wrong, but not everything he does is wrong, and everything can be mutually exclusive. He didn't handle the COVID-19 thing well, but doesn't mean he doesn't handle his team well on an everyday basis.
Well put. Let's get back to a time where college football is fun. Let's also get back to a time, hopefully, I don't see it coming, but where anybody that has an iPhone or a laptop in their hand can be judge and jury and take either wrongdoings by somebody that are questionable or up for debate or context or consideration or some vetting out process and instantly, you know, take away their livelihood or want to. It is just way too much.